What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Danielle Smith's at it again. In fact, for anybody who says she doesn't do enough for Alberta, she's pulling out all the stops. As we talk about Alberta independence, I think that the path that Danielle Smith is on is to ensure that even if independence were to fail, Alberta still is going to get the best shake at the table. She's often discussed getting a similar deal to the province of Quebec, and how Quebec, kind of gets a little bit of, we'll say, leniency when it comes to their jurisdiction over the federal government. I see Danielle doing that. She's actually pushing for a lot of that. Now, a lot of people are saying that that's primarily why at her Alberta Next panels, she's bringing up topics like provincial police force. She's talking about the Alberta pension plan. She's talking about our constitution. She's talking about a number of different things that she wants to bring forward to the federal government. Of course, the number one topic of discussion at any of those Alberta Next panels are independence. People are saying, well, enough is enough. If you saw our clips last week, some residents or constituents even saying, look, Ottawa's not going to take us seriously until we start to put our foot down. Or else it's just going to be the same old for Alberta. Well, I'm happy to report Danielle is now considering pulling out of supply management in Alberta, or at least says it's worth considering. Now, what is supply management? We're talking essentially about things like the dairy cartels. Danielle wants to make Alberta a little bit more prosperous, get away from the stupid quotas that are out there, because not only does it make dairy extremely expensive, but it stops our farmers from making a profit or from producing more goods. Of course, supply and demand, more supply, equal demand, things can come down in price. People could maybe afford some stuff once in a while. In fact, when you look at our dairy producers, indeed, that is, well, everybody knows about the cartels, the dairy cartels. Let's just get into it. Canada's dairy and poultry supply management regime could face a major challenge from within. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith saying she could consider the province exiting the quota system. Smith said at a town hall in Red Deer, Alberta, she found the idea of the province opting out of supply management intriguing. Creating our own Alberta version of supply management maybe as a pathway to a market system, and maybe just because it would stick our finger in the eye of Quebec, might be something we want to do a little consultation on, said Danielle Smith. So again, she's sticking up to say, hey, we don't have to keep taking this guff. Smith noted that Alberta's share of Canada-wide quota for dairy and egg production allotted under supply management falls below its share of the population. In fact, there was a story that broke not too long ago about an egg-producing farmer who was actually arrested and jailed for selling eggs to somebody. I mean, the laws on dairy in this country are absolutely ridiculous. This is one of Trump's number one complaints when it comes to tariffs, of what Canada charges in tariffs for dairy. I've said it multiple times that Trump's in the right. You just look at what we charge them. Her comments came after one of the attendees, Lee Eddy, a resident of Red Deer County, said earlier in the evening that pulling out of the system would be one way for Alberta to grab the attention of Laurentian power brokers. I'm sorry, the page keeps skipping down because of ads. They want you to subscribe to the National Post. The town hall was being held at a part of Smith's Alberta Next panel struck to consider tactics, for enhancing Alberta sovereignty. If we really want to make the Eastern politicians have to change their underwear, we should remove our supply management from the Canadian system, said Eddy. Quebec producers hold roughly 37% of Canada's total milk quota, with Ontario producers holding 32%, according to Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada. Producers in the two provinces have exerted considerable clout over politicians, giving their concentration in certain ridings. Alberta producers hold just short of 9%, despite the province representing more than 11% of the national population. And he suggested that Alberta move first to a transitional provincial quota system and eventually to a market-based system. Supply management has emerged as a major trade irritant with the United States, as I mentioned earlier, further complicating already delicate cross-border trade negotiations. U.S. President Donald Trump singled out Canada's restricted dairy market in a recent letter to Prime Minister Mark Carney, threatening to slap 35% tariffs on all Canadian products on August 1st. During the recent federal election, Carney promised to keep supply management off the table because it's suicide for any politician in Ottawa to do that. And that's how we know that Danielle's making the right moves here, by the way. Because if Danielle goes and does this, she doesn't have to worry about losing her job because she's gaining the respect of Albertans. She's getting the support of Albertans. Ottawa will never give us this fair shake because whoever stands up to do so will face political suicide. In a new trade negotiation with the U.S., federal conservative leader Pierre Poilievre has also said he supports supply management. So again, nobody's going to lose their job over this. We're never going to get it from the federal government. So what better way than for Danielle to stand up and say, well, if you're not going to change it, we will. Sylvain Charlebois, director of the Agri-Foods Analytics Lab at Dalhousie University, says that Alberta's relative lack of a skin in the dairy quota game gives it a freer hand to take on supply management. I could potentially see Alberta become the quote-unquote shit disturber that could actually get everyone and politicians in particular to think differently about supply management instead of just being blindly supportive without knowing why, said Charlebois. He noted that the dairy farmers in Alberta benefit relatively little from the existing scheme, paying up to twice as much as farmers in Quebec and Ontario for the same share of the quota. Charlebois said that it was absolutely possible for Alberta to leave the federal system and set up its own dairy commission, but he said that provincial administration would come with its own challenges, such as selling Alberta's dairy products elsewhere in Canada. Would they consider other provinces to be foreign markets? It's hard to say, said Charlebois. Well, regardless, Alberta could set up a trading market with the United States through its dairy if they so wanted to, without having to worry about the rest of the country. This is why I keep saying independence is great for Alberta and trade negotiations with the United States. Alberta doesn't need Canada. And that's not to slap Canada in the face or say that we hate Canada and Alberta. It's just saying that we're holding some of the cards at the table. We're playing poker here after all. And the federal government needs to realize at some point in time, whether we're talking about oil and gas, whether we're talking about dairy, whether we're talking about our rights as citizens, at some points they have to realize, and other provinces would have to realize, that if we're not going to be taken seriously as a partner at the table, we can take our products elsewhere. I wouldn't expect anybody in any other province to take abuse and say, well, we'll just continue being friends. At some point, you have to say, I'm going to have to go somewhere else. I can't do this anymore. Charlebois added that other provinces could also object to Alberta dumping less expensive non-supply management products across provincial lines. Alberta's Milk Marketing Board couldn't be reached for comment. Of course not. Lawrence Herman, a lawyer for international trade experts based in Toronto, says that just because Alberta can unilaterally exit supply management doesn't mean it should. So just because you have the right to go and have a better life doesn't mean you should. You should just stick it out for Canada. This is the excuse I keep seeing across the board, is that we should be allowed to keep abusing you while you just buck up and say, well, that's part of being in Canada after all. We're done. The country is done. I've got viewers in Newfoundland that say they're done. There's viewers from New Brunswick who tell me that they're done. We have viewers from Ontario that tell me they're done as well. It's not just Alberta. People have had enough. And that kind of attitude and approach from anybody, when you're talking about international, being an international trade expert, but notice he's based in Toronto. Well, you should just shut up and keep going along with it. There isn't anything that legally requires a province to participate, said Herman. However, the province couldn't change the import limits and tariff rate quota system. It's so difficult to see how it would work. The better option is for the feds and the provinces to work together in phasing out the entire national supply management system, he said. Supply management in Alberta sparked a minor controversy in April when an egg farmer in the province was jailed in a quota dispute with the Egg Marketing Board. Smith said in February that she'd asked her agricultural minister to start a conversation about potential Canada-U.S. trade concessions relating to supply management. Red Deer Town Hall was the first of 10 scheduled in-person events hosted by Smith and a chaired Alberta Next panel. Supply management is not one of the 6 formal topics put up for discussion by the panel, says the National Post. But again, this is why I keep telling people, if you go to alberta.ca/next, you can see all of the dates for the Alberta Next panels. You can get in up to 2 weeks in advance. You can start RSVPing, getting your seat verified. And this is one of the things I think should be brought up again regularly. at these Alberta Next panels, letting Danielle know these panels are set up, and I don't understand why a lot of people are giving them pushback on the left-hand side of the media. There's nothing wrong with a premier wanting to hear what her constituents who mandated her have to say about their job, about what they need to do to make things better, about policies they should be adopting. I think taking the time to travel the province and listen to your constituents is admirable. And I think more premiers would benefit from doing something similar. However, if we have our chance to have our say, I think this is one place where we should be telling Danielle that, look, if you're going to talk about getting similar rules to Quebec, fair treatment like Quebec gets from the rest of the federal government, maybe these are one of the issues you should be taking to the table and going to bat with against the federal government. I definitely think it could help us in U.S. trade at the very least. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. Do you think that Danielle should be doing something about this? Do you think that she should maybe just ignore it? It's not within her best interest. Let me know your thoughts down below. If it's your first time here, I hope this video has earned your subscription. Don't forget, as you're hitting that button, click the bell for notifications so that you never miss a beat whenever videos drop on the channel. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday night for Friday Night Fringe, our live streaming show, where I sit down with the beautiful Mrs. Fringe and we talk about everything that's happened this week in Canadian politics, everything we know that's coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A within the greatest YouTube community on the platform. I look forward to sitting down and chatting with you guys each and every week to hear what you have to say outside of making these videos. I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.